Hi, everyone. Hi, Julie.
Hi there. How
We
are
are
you?
back. We're good. I'm real good. We're back for episode 12 of Living Happily Ever Awesome. Um, I just wanted to check in with you. How are things?
Yeah, things are good. Busy,
Yeah.
but that's all
We
right.
uh we
It's
missed
life.
last week.
We did. Yeah, our schedules didn't
We
didn't
couldn't get
align.
together.
Yeah. Oh well, life happens, right?
It's true. I only got like 2 or 3 Instagram DMs asking where we were, so didn't disappoint too many people. But, pretty soon, we're not gonna be able to do that. We're not gonna get away with skipping a week because our fans are going to, go crazy.
Wow, that's the hope.
We're
That's the
working on
hope.
it, working on it.
Yeah.
How do you think things are going? From your initial vision of this to what it is now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that initial, like this got born out of a long, long time ago where there wasn't, there weren't really podcasts. That wasn't really present very long. And I was listening to radio shows and thinking, oh, it'd be really cool to like be on a live radio show where people could call in and ask questions and I could just answer them and it'd be super fun and dynamic. Um, and so it's a little bit of a paradigm shift for me to, that would be you automatically have a captive audience when
Sure.
you're on a radio show. And there was, I think, just a little starry-eyed expectation of mine to just be like, oh, it's just going to be just like that. And it's not, right? You have to build it up. And just
Right.
like, I mean, just like I'm sure radio shows have to do, but I wasn't part of that process, that, behind the scenes process for them. So being in the behind the scenes process for this, it's challenging, it's exciting, but it's also challenging because of course we all want things to happen right now.
Right.
And
Patience. We have to have patience. I
yeah, and
have a
I
lot of
think,
that either.
I mean, it's just, ideally, I was talking to some people about this and I was like, they were like, yeah, well, I mean, you want to get clients. And I was like, no, this is not about me getting clients at all. Like, that's not my intention at all. My intention really is to get information out there and help people answer questions that they might have that maybe they don't know who to ask or they've gotten advice from their friends and they're like, well, I don't know if that's even accurate or helpful or that I could just be of service is really my intention. And so that, I think that's the frustrating part, is just wanting a big following so that I could help more people.
Yeah.
So,
It's
it'll
kinda like
happen.
when you open up your own CrossFit gym, you're not doing it for the money, that's for sure.
That's right.
You just
That's
wanna
right.
help as many people as you can, and it gets frustrating when, people don't see the value in they don't understand that they need it too. I think a lot of couples, like you said, everybody could probably benefit from this if you're in a relationship, and I think there's still sort of a stigma attached to it, um, I think in many ways, and or an expense, or it's not widely, covered under, medical insurance and things like that. So people are reluctant. I see a lot of parallels there,
Yeah.
and I can understand why people might not jump on board, but it seems like paramount to people's healthy relationships.
Yeah, I mean, as a therapist, you always are like really stoked when people come in preemptively, when they're like, oh, we're good or we're about to get married or, whatever, and we just want to make this even better or set us up selves up for success. Like that's always just this dream of like, oh,
Yeah.
but we are programmed to only come when we're in crisis or things are really bad.
Mhm. What is the sort of one of your go-to things that you might talk about or bring up with a couple that comes to you like that with no issues necessarily? Just, "Hey, we want to just work on the health of our relationship," and there's nothing specific, that comes to mind that we wanna work on. Do you have sort of a formula of things that you might wanna express to them or have them communicate to you?
I mean, yeah, I'm throwing things out to them to see if they've thought about it, talked about it, have it instilled in their relationship. Um, how, and also I'm seeing how they interact, whether they both share power, how they are, what their attachment styles are, how they then can best understand one another and even make things even better, feel better understood. Because, a couple, life is only going to get, usually only going to get more complicated. And the more that you put in the mix, the more stress there is on the system, which then we tend to go into our default coping strategies. And if they don't have the awareness of what's working and why it's working, then they'll just revert, and then it won't go as well when there's higher stress in the
Mhm.
system. So just kind of shoring things up in terms of, things that they might not have thought about, putting some principles in place in terms of their relationship, some agreements in place that they just were kind of tacit before, but now they're overt, and they understand why and how it works in the relationship. So I mean, there's lots to do, and it's fun because they're so willing. There's no time to, there's nothing that a couple like that will come in and you won't automatically have a therapeutic alliance, meaning they will they're buying things hook, line, and sinker because they're there for there's no resistance really.
Sure.
Whereas other people who are having issues and come in that way, sometimes it's one or both people are have their defenses up or don't want to be there, or so there's other things you have to kind of work through in addition to the actual therapy.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw another CrossFit parallel in there. It's sort of like, as a coach, when you take people through a warm up, you've never seen them move before, right? And you have them warm up. You as a coach are assessing how they move. What limitations do they have? Can they do an air squat? Can they do things? Can they understand? Do they understand directions? Are they listening? I imagine you can glean a lot from a couple based on how they interact with each other as you're asking them questions. It's kind of like, when you take your kid to the pediatrician, and the mom that's like answering all the questions for the kid and the kid's not answering, the doctor's probably like, oh my God, like helicopter mom. So
Yeah.
I imagine that just, asking some questions and having them answer, you get to just observe, and can ascertain sort of relationships and hierarchies and all that kind of stuff. I want to ask you a question. Do you ever play the game? I play this game a lot. And my stepmom used to do this all the time. It was fascinating. When we're out at a restaurant and you scan the room, and you sort of take a table, maybe a couple or something, and you're trying to figure out, like, are they on a first date? Are they, are they married? Have they been together a long time? Are they getting along? Are they not getting along? Like, that is one of my favorite things to do, is to try to like figure out like in what stage of their relationship they are. I mean, you're
Yeah.
probably way better at it than me, but yeah, that is something I enjoy.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's really fun to for me to see when couples have kids, and
Mm.
like kind of guessing the age of the kid, of how they're acting and questions or non-questions or whatever, and then how the parents are dealing with these various some more challenging stages and
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
That's really fun for me.
that's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, I don't, I think a lot of people do that.
I think so too. It's fun. It's entertaining.
I,
And if you're lacking conversation in your own uh, couple, you can just sort of talk about other people. It's great.
I think the most fascinating though is an airport. Airports just, to me,
Oh,
are the
yeah,
most fascinating places to watch people.
true. Yeah, I haven't been in one in a while, but yeah, that's true too. All right. So let's get to our topic of the week. Ambivalence is the word of the day. Um, I looked this word up before we started just because I like to have, the Webster's definition, and it is not defined the way I thought it was.
It's kind of ambivalent the way it's described.
Well, no, I actually thought that ambivalence meant, and I've been living my life now thinking this, that ambivalence is kind of like a not caring,
Mm,
like I'm thinking of a different word, obviously, but I thought it was that.
apathy.
Yeah, apathy,
Hmm.
or indifference, I guess. I
Hmm.
I was thinking that indifference and ambivalence are sort of synonyms, and they are not at all. So I'm going to let you define ambivalence, and then we'll get started.
Well, how it shows up in a relationship is, I'm just, I I guess I would say I feel strongly both ways,
Hmm.
kind of thing.
Opposite
Or
ways, right?
I feel strongly like it's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Okay.
I can't decide. I want this, but I want that, or I don't want this, but I don't want that. It's you're on the fence, and you cannot make, or cannot, will not have a hard time making a decision.
Okay.
And that could, I mean, if we're talking just the basic of a relationship, if we're just talking, sometimes couples will come in and one or both partners are ambivalent about the relationship itself.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if I want to be in this relationship. And so they're coming in to figure that out.
Mhm.
Um, I think it's a bit of a, as I'm thinking about this and talking about this, I honestly think that that's a bit of, it's self-protection usually.
Okay.
I think my view on it is that they're coming in and they're like, we or I am unhappy with the way things are going. And so the way things are going and the way that it looks right now, I'm not sure I want to be in that.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that anything can change. So therefore, I'm not sure if I want this relationship. Um, I think that's oftentimes what the internal process might be. Sometimes I'm not sure if it's too late, right? If
Mhm.
like things have been going on for so long and that no matter what changes happen, um, I just don't know whether I want to be in this relationship. It's like too much water under the bridge kind of thing. But it is, it's normal. Of course, we experience it all the time, but it is extremely threatening in the relationship itself.
What do you mean by that? What 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 makes it threatening?
So if you are trying to be in a relationship and you are all in and you're like, all right, let's work on this, let's make this better, and you have a partner that's like, well, I don't know, you automatically are going to feel threatened because you're like, well, shit, I don't I don't know if I happen to step here that was the wrong step and that then that's the final straw and they're out.
Mhm.
Or if I do this or I don't do this, it's that person is then always on edge. Even if they aren't necessarily consciously aware of it, their nervous system is. And so it's threatening to their nervous system, so they will be in a at least mildly form of fight, flight, or freeze,
Okay.
like kind of survival.
Okay. And I mean, is this something that couples will come to you and self-identify, or is this? I assume this is something that you sort of uncover this ambivalence as you're working through things.
Both, some people are
Okay.
really aware of it and some people aren't at all, but then, and the ambivalence can be, it's not, they aren't really aware of it, but they are playing it out, and they have been for years and years and years and years. And it's not necessarily uh that they're aware of the fact that they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but they are playing at life with 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So that includes their relationship, and it's much more common. I mean, islands can be ambivalent as well, but of course, with the anxious ambivalent wave,
Mhm.
it is much more common for them to be functioning with this as the way they pretty much live their lives.
Ugh, okay. So what is the goal as their counselor to are we trying to eliminate the ambivalence or mitigate it somehow?
Well, my job would be to, first of all, to try to highlight how it's actually self-harming for them, to stay in that place. Because while they are stuck in this, I don't know, and they don't want to, they really are stuck. That's the primary word, stuck. And
Mhm.
the feeling stuck is a familiar feeling for them throughout their life. And that, that by not choosing, they're actually choosing, right? And that what happens then is, life goes by, other people make the decisions for them because they're stuck and they're not moving.
Mhm.
And so other people make the decisions, or time makes the decision, something else makes the decision, something or someone, which makes them a victim, which then causes resentment in them. So then they're living with this lifetime pattern of feeling stuck, not choosing, something getting chosen for them. So therefore, life kind of living them instead of them living their lives. And then being resentful of the fact that life lived them or somebody else made the decision. And the someone else is typically their partner. And then the resentment gets played out with their partner.
I was gonna ask, so the resentment's not necessarily, targeted back toward them, but it they
Oh
can
no.
they can project it to their partner.
Yes. Yeah. And then, that the partner makes all the decisions, or it's all about them, or, and then that plays right into, an island is tends to be more self-centered, right? So it then it just
Feeds right into
this
it.
the cycle, right? And really it's helping the wave, and this sounds a little, I don't want it to sound condescending. It's not intended to be. It's really part of growing up is realizing that no matter what you choose, no matter what, there is always loss. And that, if you choose between a Snickers bar and a Hershey's almonds, like if you choose one, well, the bummer is you lose out on the other one.
Yeah.
And but it's part of life. And kids, you can see this stage with them of like, you say you want this or you want this, and they're like, no, I want both, and they'll throw a fit, right? And if they have parents that give into that, um and don't allow the child to feel the loss, then the child grows up without experiencing that and not knowing how to actually, either wanting both and having temper tantrums if they don't,
Right.
or if they can't, if they, and that's not how life actually is.
Sure. They're
So
gonna
then,
experience that loss eventually.
but that's what waves in this ambivalent place are trying to do, is avoid the loss. They are trying desperately to avoid loss. And part of that growing up is realizing you need to experience loss, and it's part of it. And that way you at least then are in charge of your life and the decisions that are being made. You are in charge rather than other people.
So if you had a couple where, let's say one of the partners was not happy with the state of affairs in the relationship, pick something, doesn't really matter, hypothetically, something, she makes green beans every night and I don't like green beans. But he's afraid to say anything about the fact that he doesn't like green beans because he's afraid that she's gonna, I don't know, react in a way that is gonna negatively impact the relationship in a bigger way. Is that, that reluctance to sort of, so to me, that person, that couple that hates the green beans but doesn't wanna say anything is sort of, they don't like it, but they don't wanna disrupt the relationship, so they're just gonna sort of deal with it. Is that
That's more avoidance.
okay,
Yeah.
not it. Okay.
Ambivalence would be, that you just can't, it's, I think we talked either last time or oh, Dora's here. Dora is here. Um, the last time or so about the chess game. Did we talk about that?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So the ambivalent partner is kind of like, well, I want the, I want, maybe that, well, maybe
So they're
this,
like not taking their hand off the piece.
never taking their hand off. So they keep the system. I mean, they kind of keep their partner captive. They hold them
Mm,
captive, and they hold a relationship captive, and it's stuck in this murky place. It's not clear. You can't really make any moves because they are so afraid that if they make this move, they think in their mind,
we're
I
losing.
know if I make this move that they're going to make this move. And honestly, they have no idea. They
Sure.
really don't. They are automated to think that they do, but they do not.
Hmm.
And the proof is in the pudding, and the fear that what they predict is going to happen is so strong that they then just don't move.
Okay. So what is the work that you do with couples then to try to clear this up?
Well, I was going into that of like the self-harming piece, but and like helping the person to really realize that, hey, this isn't working for them, that this is actually hurting them, and and helping them feel somatically in their body what feels actually right. So we do some exercises of saying, going one way, how does that feel in their body? Going another way, how does that feel in their body? And getting some information from their body rather than their mind, because your mind is always going to play tricks on you.
Mhm.
So the body does not lie. So if if they say something of like, I am 100% in, and they're like, they just feel sick to their stomach, right? Then they're like, then we get some information there. Or if they're like, I say, okay, tell them I'm 100% done with this relationship. And then uh, they are like, oh God, I can't say that. Okay, well, that's information, right? So it's like there's all this information. And if they can't say either, or they don't want to, or they get negative things with being 100% in or 100% out, then having them say, like, I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And they're like, yes, yes, I feel solid in that, or whatever. And then it's working with all the negative things then that happen as a result of them being there, and how then it's me helping them realize and feeling in their body how stuck they stay, how resentful they are, how all these things, and they don't like any of those things. And so then there's and waves have this really great capacity to realize these things. It's like they know a lot, they just don't know that they know a lot. And so once I kind of point things out or guide them a little bit, they're like they catch on right away, and they realize, like, oh wow, yeah, I do that, or I don't do that, or yep, you're right. They can really catch on, and then they really can begin to process, like, ooh, this isn't actually getting me what I want.
Mm.
And so I do need to change. And so it might take a little while, but they do catch on rather quickly, and they can make some changes such that, because what I want for them, for everyone that I'm working with, is that they get what they want. And, their strategy is not working for them. And so I want to help point that out and guide them in a direction that might be less familiar and more uncomfortable, but that actually will get them what they want. Or they could then figure out that they're never going to get what they want from where they are because of the partner they chose or whatever, and then they can leave. But staying stuck is just going to get them more of the same.
So all of that tends to be with one person, and you're
With one
dealing with
person.
these two-person systems. So what role does the other person take, or what kind of things do you have the other person either doing, or thinking about as they're working through this together?
Well, let's take the example of somebody who's like, let's 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 take it where there's just one person, where it's the wave,
Okay.
and because sometimes both partners come in and they're both ambivalent.
Mhm.
They don't know. But let's say that the island is like, I am 2 feet in, I'm ready to go. I love this person. I want to make this work. And then the wave is like, I don't know. I don't know. And I work with that wave to try to, shore that up and have them actually choose one thing or the other. And they just are not in that place in that moment to make a move. They just are like in this, like, and this happens where it's like, oh, I see what I'm doing. I know this isn't helpful, but I'm not ready to
Still stuck.
move.
Yeah.
And no matter how much pressure I can put on, it just doesn't happen. And the other part of that puzzle is, why is this other person, this island, willing to tolerate half-assed?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why aren't they saying, well, listen, unless you're 100% in, then we're done here, because I can't work with somebody who's unsure. And it's, I think that sometimes it gets equated to, you're 100% in means that, for sure you want to be with me for the rest of your life. Like,
Yeah.
but that's what couples
People
equate it
think.
to being,
Right.
rather than, hey, you're 100% in to work this out and let's see where this goes.
I'm giving 100% effort towards it, but yeah.
Right. And so then, it's a two-person system of, if this person's ambivalent and not giving 100%, why is this other person so okay with it to just continue to let them be in that space?
Mhm.
Because eh, then there's really no pressure in the system to change. If one person's willing to tolerate half-assed and one person is willing to be unsure, then I'm like, okay, well, then you
Right,
guys
there's
have
nothing to
nothing.
fix.
There's
Right?
nothing to fix. You guys will continue to get the same, and just and come back if and when you want to shift this. But as things are right now, and the pressure that I've put on either or both of them, if they're fine where they are, there's nothing to change. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it it is.
Yeah, this was not, the how that I thought the topic was gonna go, so
It's fun though. It's fun to work with couples with this, when they're, because both ways, if we take that one example, both things that each are doing, are self-harming.
Mhm.
Why is
Sure.
someone willing to take the short end of the stick, or just take what they can get? And of course, that's going to go back to their attachment and what happened back there, and that's what they had to just take. That's all they got, and so they're just so
Right,
hungry,
they'll
and
take
they'll
what they
just
can
take it.
get.
Exactly, something is better than nothing.
Yeah.
And so, working with that person and working with the stuckness, and getting them out of these places of pain that then perpetuate. I mean, it was a painful thing that they had to deal with in their childhood, and it was a way they survived, but then they're perpetuating it, and they're just living in this kind of hell on some level. It's unconscious hell, and I don't want that for anyone.
Yeah. That doesn't sound fun.
No.
Okay, so before we get to our big announcement, any parting words on ambivalence that you wanna wrap this up with?
I think, if you feel like you're unsure, um, well, I mean, if you're with somebody who's unsure, I would suggest uh, looking at yourself and upping your standards, of what you deserve, or working with somebody to help you work on self-worth. Because the more, like, the pressure that you put on in terms of standing up for yourself will then help the other person make a move, right? Because if there's no pressure, there's no reason to move.
Right. No reason
Um,
to change.
and with the the more ambivalent partner, um, know that that's threatening to the relationship, and that you really are allowing, you're just kind of, you're idle. You're allowing life to live you. You're not in charge of your life, and that's really quite sad. You don't want to be on your deathbed and be like, man, I just didn't even live my life.
Yeah. No, very true.
So I would, suggest just jumping, just jump, and the net will appear. It really will. And it's going to be scary, but that is how change can actually happen. And you're kind of not allowing that change that you say you want to actually happen by staying ambivalent.
Yeah. Don't be stuck. Don't
Yeah.
stay stuck. All
And
right,
if you
Kenneth.
need help, get help.
Yeah, please do. Kenneth has a question here. How much of how you treat relationships in life is based on examples of relationships you see when you were a child? It's kind of unrelated,
Mm.
but a good question.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have the percentage, but quite a lot. Like, that's why the attachment piece is so important, because we are little sponges as kids. And so we're just learning how to do things, how relationships look, uh, how we were treated, then we then repeat that. I mean, there's so much that's imprinted into us that we then are repeating whatever we know. We can change it, but initially we're going to default to what's in the memory bank kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm always conscientious about modeling behavior, with small people too, that are around, and it is interesting to sort of self-reflect and see, how you've behaved and how that might impact, um, your children and whatnot. And then I look back at my own childhood and think, about how, men treated women, women treated men in all kinds of different relationships, not just my parents, but, grandparents and professional relationships, whatever. Yeah, I think you can't help but sort of, you know, be influenced
Yeah.
by the things that you see. It's always like, when your child acts up and you're like, gosh, where does he get that from? Like, I don't act that way. His father doesn't act that way. Like, why is he being that way?
He's
Um,
trying to call attention to something that
right,
isn't right.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's the only way they know.
definitely based on how we model behavior. So, speaking of relationships, I think we've got some exciting things coming up next week.
Next week.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So we have a couple that wants to come on and ask a question or two, or I'm not sure what's going to transpire, but they they are interested in showing up and asking whatever they want to ask. And so we'll see. We'll kind of deal with that live and see how it goes.
That's exciting. What are their first names? Do you know off the top of your head? Do you remember?
Uh, I do know. I just don't know if they're going to use
Oh,
their
okay. All right. Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay.
I don't know. Let them decide that. I'm sure they'll use their first names, but
Fred and Beth.
and Wilma. Yeah.
Yeah, Fred and Wilma. They're coming on. That's gonna be exciting. So, we'll have them on the show live next week. Have we nailed down a time yet, or we just still need to figure that out?
I think it will be this time.
Okay. So 1 o'clock Eastern, 11 Mountain.
Yeah.
And so there won't be necessarily a topic. It'll just be we get to meet the lovely couple and interact with them and answer everyone else's questions in the chat. And if anyone wants to call in, we can call in too.
Yep.
And see what happens.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Julie.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know what ambivalence means.
You're welcome.
Let's get us out of here.
All right.
Ba, ba,